Welcome everyone to the 3-day international virtual workshop on researching, writing, editing, and publishing, jointly organized by Lavender Literary Club India, Cap Common Trust, Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association Malaysia. Today, we have three speakers, Professor Dr. Balakrishnan Parasuraman, Dr. India Banerjee, and Dr. S. Veeramani. And our first speaker is Professor Dr. Balakrishnan Parasuraman. Professor Dr. Balakrishnan Parasuraman is a professor of management, HR, industrial relations, and the Faculty of Entrepreneurship and Business, University Malaysian Kelantan, based in Kota Bharu, Kelantan. He is a member of the International Honor Societies of the International Employment and Labor Relations Association, based in Geneva, Switzerland, Malaysian Institute of HR and International Employment Relations Association, Sydney, Australia. He received the Global HR Award 2009 from the World HR Advisory Council. He was adjudged as an outstanding PhD researcher at University of Wollongong, Australia in 2004, a recipient of the Visiting Research Fellow at the Center of Asia Pacific and Social Transformations, Faculty of Commerce, University of Wollongong and University of Indonesia in 2010. Is a popular choice as an interviewee by TV and radio stations to give opinions on HR-related issues in global or local perspective. We are glad to have you, sir. The session is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Gino. How are you, Gino? Are you okay?
I'm fine, sir. I'm good.
So currently I'm in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. So away from Kuala Lumpur, 2 hours 40 minutes. I have tomorrow an event between union and management. So first of all, I think good evening in India now. Actually, India is now 6 o'clock and Malaysia is now 8:30. So as usual, I think I hope everybody in a good health. And I'd like to welcome to all the distinct speakers for next 3 days. You're going to enjoy all the best speakers on the field. And also I'd like to welcome all the participants, which I respect highly. And you all take your time and willing to share the knowledge. As I said to you, we are sharing the knowledge each other. And also I'd like to welcome all the students and postgraduate from the degree to PhD level. And I believe last 3 years, I think almost 4 years since COVID until now, we are conducting this international virtual workshop on researching, writing, editing, and publishing. So as a patron for this internet workshop, and also I'm also president of Malaysian Industrial Relations, HR. So as I think Gino already introduced briefly about my background and also my research background. So first of all, I would like to thanks to Lavender Literature Club and also Camp Comrin, which I think lead by Dr. Frank Jason and also Dr. Regent Silvers. Both actually the young scholars that organizing this workshop continuously and not any tiredness. So I really admire them for organizing such a wonderful workshop. And I think as a Malaysian, I feel proud to be part of this team. So I'm actually an Indian Malaysian. I born, I think my forefathers actually come from India, Tamil Nadu. I'm the third generation in Malaysia, but I consider that all of us in one big family. So whenever we talk of academic scholars discussion, and of course we cannot separate it from all of us from writing scientific papers that we will publish in journal, right? Time goes, okay. During my time, I started in 1996 as a young scholar in the field of industrial relation and human resource. That was back to 28 years back. So when I first joined academic world, I was first my my dean, Professor Qasim Ahmad, at that time, he advised all of us young lecturer to start writing. So first, his advice to us, writing must be compulsory when you come to the university. Unless you work in a school, then you must be very good in teaching and learning. So school, that not really expecting that writing. But when come to the university, then writing is a part. So he advised, when at that time I don't have any degree, master's or PhD. I also don't know about this academic world at that time because I was a high school teacher. I was a trained teacher in the college, government college, and I'm a government teacher at that time. So, but of course, teaching is always one of the best option I choose not to be a teacher. And when I come to the university, I have a different kind of role apart from teaching. So then that time I think I was my bosses very good, and they're very friendly. They said you need to write. Write means it's a good reputable journal, and also write books. Write this. So at that time I don't know what it is. What does it mean that? Until I further my studies, went back to United Kingdom. At that time, I did my master's 1 year degree in United Kingdom, in Scotland, University of Stirling. So when I was there, the environment totally different. So I looking around, everybody talking about publication, and they're a very humble person. I think most of my professors are very humble, and I don't know what is mean by professor, lecturers, and all this. So I start learning, and I acquire my knowledge. Not only studying masters, I also attended many seminars conducted by that at that time the university. So I was learning by myself, and of course at that time it required to get a master's. And after I got master's, I think first thing I was taught by UK scholars to publish. So I able to publish based on my master's degree. Only about 3 months research, but I don't do the empirical study that go to collect data in field work, but we are doing like some kind of literature review, secondary, we call it armchair research, but all critical analysis. So meaning at that time I was asked my supervisor to look at the theory that were posted by American scholars in my field. So they are from Cornell University. They do research in Malaysia, and they're using some kind of theory that which is based on the Malaysian case. So my supervisor asked me that why not you look at the situation in Malaysia? You are from Malaysia, you know better, and why not we do together? And I wanted to write a very critical analysis. So it's very tough research. Because 3 months, I cannot come back to Malaysia and collect data and all. So I did. Based on the literature review survey, and I look at the historical data, which is a paper written in the past, and that was industrial relations. So what the argument is actually, the argument on that particular time, the changes of labor relation, labor law at that time is actually based on social economic factor. Then I argue back to in my thesis, I wrote that I debated that no, there's other factors also involved, which is I think socio-economic, anthropologies, and political issue. That's why that was drastic change in labor, and also labor law, industrial relation, and some of the act that was implemented during the 1960s, 70s, 80s. And finally, we completed a study, and I got the best result for the thesis. We call dissertation, and I come back. During the time, I think I published 2-3 papers in journal. At that time, we don't heard about Scopus, ISI. We only go for reputable journal. Some journals at that time not listed in Scopus. Like example, there's one journal in India. They call Indian Industrial Relations Journal. If you look at it in the website, they're not put in the Scopus, but they're reputable journal. In fact, Nobel Prize winner also wrote a paper in that particular journal, and that very classical journal in 30s or 40s was established by industrial relations scholars from the top university like University of New Delhi, Indian Institute of Management, and so on. So we published a paper. So at that time, we able to publish 2-3 papers, and finally I published a book based on that. What I'm sharing this actually, and even though the paper 3 months, but I able to come up with 2 or 3 papers and 1 book, and that book published by Prentice Hall, now we call Pearson Education. They are same like Oxford, Cambridge, and so I published as a book, and that was during my study in PhD. Then I come back 5 years I served as a university. I only focus publication, and my publication also lead to my teaching, because I don't just publish, don't do research. I'm also sharing the knowledge in my classroom. Okay, so the student also benefit. So the knowledge is actually disseminating, not separated. So as young scholars here, most of you around young scholars, maybe some of you in the senior position, or maybe you're just joined, although your age is quite senior. The thing that whatever you teach to the student, it must come from your research or your publication. So share the knowledge so that they know what's happening in the. So that's what I did for all my life. So actually, say that I'm addicted. Like many people are addicted to drug, many people are addicted to many things, many things. But I addicted to writing. So if I cannot write, I feel like I got a sick. So I need to write. Even simple articles, newspaper. Whenever I got time, I write something. Not say I don't have leisure time. Of course, I got leisure time, but it's become my hobby. Not only hobby, it's already beyond hobbies. And then after 5 years, I work and I go to do my PhD in University of Wollongong. I like to travel to other countries, to another countries, because I want to know what is happening. It's not, actually I was offered to go to US to do my PhD, and also in United Kingdom, back again in the kingdom. But I choose to go to Australia because I know Australia also, they are top in terms of research. And I want to learn from the Australian scholars. Then I went to Australia, University of Wollongong. Even there, even though I'm actually studying PhD, but because of my background is a lecturer, so I acting a lecturer. So I'm playing double 2 role. One's a lecturer, one is what do you call a student, PhD student. So, but I mingle around with every people. I like to mix around people from marketing, people from accounting. They come from different countries. Some of them from Libya, some country from Hong Kong, Thailand, Korea. All my friends are doing PhD. So I like to learn from each other. And the thing that I learned a lot, I learned methodology, how they publish papers, and I start think about what there's so many methodology, like quantitative, qualitative, and all this. So then after that, I start publishing. Again, I publish. And I able to get 2 grants, international grant at that time from ILO. ILO given me a grant. And I published 2 books at a time when I studied Australia University, and also I travel. Those days, I think nowadays you not much traveling for one country to another country to attend a conference. So my time, thank God, I got a lot of sponsorship. Even when I was in Australia, I also sponsored by the faculty, because at that time in Australia, you publish 1 book, they will give you research grant about 10,000 Australian dollars, but they didn't give money because I'm not a lecturer. So what they do, they just give me research travel grant so that I can go to overseas and present papers. So it's like free. They reward me. And of course, at that time, they offered me a job to stay back in Australia, but I come back to Malaysia too, because I need to develop my area labor, and I got a lot of things to do. So then during the 4 years time in Australia, I traveled many places within Australia, and I met a lot of scholars. And at that time, I able to meet some friends. I think they are still working with me. And one of them, Dr. Ariana Satria from University of Indonesia. And I met one company, become friends, and become now not only friends, become family friends. I go every year to Indonesia to be a guest lecturer. And me and Dr. Ariana also same field. Then we compared the study between Indonesia and Malaysia, and we published quite a number of papers. You can check in Google. You can go and check and see. And we are already friends more than 12, 13 years until now, and we still publishing. The latest one we published is the last year, one edited book we published in Indonesia and launched by Minister. So until now, until today, I already published about almost 20 books, and the latest book I working on is actually through this congress, through this virtual workshop. I met Dr. Frank. So I told Dr. Frank, no, you're not only my friend, like my brother. No, I want to work with something. Why not we work together? So we started very initial project to write a books, because I think we need to collaborate through this network. I got this thanks to Dr. Ganesan, who's my friend from IPG, Institute of Teaching Training college in Ipoh, which is a small town from 2 hours from KL. He is the one who introduced me to Dr. Frank, and until now, Dr. Frank put me as a patron, and until now, I established a Malaysian IRHR. We are collaborate. You can see the logo there. So it's a collaboration between two countries, the logo from India and Malaysia. And what project we're doing now? We are able to get some papers from Indonesia, from Africa, from India, and also from Malaysia. We are already in the final draft now. We already got 14 excellent papers. And the papers come from all different backgrounds: accounting, integrity governance, okay, and HR, English literature, engineering, some of them writing different OB, owner behavior, many parts of the many sections, many fields of social sciences and humanities. And then they become like book chapter. I'm going to editing now, so soon we're going to publish, and probably we can launch either in Malaysia or in India. So the reason why, maybe some of you asking why Probala just publish a book, not, but book is also important. Sometimes book is also can bring your university name to the other countries. So it's also promoting each country. So then I work out this project together with my young friends. So I give them opportunity to be scholar in writing, scholar like that. So this will be a good platform book for those researchers, especially from undergraduate or masters or PhD, who are actually learning about different kind of method. Okay, method on the research method, and quantitative, qualitative, and multi-method. Why there are differences? What the similarities? Why you use this? So all this we are actually debating in this workshop, which is for 3 days. And also we are also looking at how all this research will benefit. So I would like to share some of the best result out of this, and I really feel so happy, so glad to be an academician, because I was a pioneer to set up one of them, not all, one of them, to set up minimum wage policy in the country, and it become like a very important topic at this moment. And then you also become the KPI, key performance indicators for Prime Minister and the Minister of HR, because minimum wage actually for poor people in the country, and we are quite late to recognize, to ratify minimum wage compared to India and other countries already long time. So at that time we already able to recognize, and now become one of the important law in the country today. Like all this month, we are going to revise the salary for 5th time. So every 2 years, the law say that. So I'm very glad I involved in this research. So in the beginning, I was too much doing research in a university, to collaborate with other countries. Like I able to get grants from Japan, World Bank, ILO, many countries. So based on that performance, so the government, actually the Ministry of Human Resources appointed us to be. So I'm already almost 12 years sitting on the National Wage Council, Technical Wage Council. So we are actually do research, high impact research, and the money comes from the government, and then we need. And apart from that, the good thing that if you're writing and you disseminate your knowledge, and citation will be good for you. And especially when you nowadays you write, of course your time is very tough, because your time is now looking at the Scopus and ISI. The reason that citation will be make also known your field on your field. So sometimes social science not that easy publish, especially literature, management, or labor relation like my field, not that easy. And you need to really go on long months to publish 1 or 2 papers. So I have 2 or 3 papers that I publish in the top journal in the world, but it takes long time, and I have to collaborate with the Australian scholars. Not that easy, So we need to have high writing and all this. So that not show that the previous journal, although they are not in the Scopus. Scopus is actually one company that running, collecting all these. So some journal not part of that. But generally, your time, the demand is there. Okay, so you have no choice. You have to writing. That's why our workshop is really researching. So research is very important. From research, it become a paper. From paper, it becomes the book, or edited book. So without research, you cannot get a good paper. So thank God, the last 3 or 4 years, I'm able to get small grant, but from the industry grant, not from the university itself, but we got it grant from the industry or from a government agency or Ministry of Human Resources. So far, last year we got 2 research grant. I was leading the 2 grant, but it was industry based collaboration between university Malaysia Kelantan Ministry of Human Resources under Trade Union Affair, and also working with the working with the Sabah bank employee unions, and the other one is a National Union of Plantation Workers. Okay, so because my area is related to union employees, so the recognition will go based on publication. So if you don't recognize yourself, people won't give any grant. The grant will come when they recognize your field. That's why I really encourage all the people in this room. We have about 56 people, 36 something, in this room. So I hope you will learn something from all of us, so that you able. So this year, after and another thing, when you do research, you need to complete on time. Okay, don't delay. The industry, they don't be tolerate on the deadline. So we completed 2 grants in the same time, which is about 90,000 ringgit Malaysia. And then immediately they already offered another grant, the same ministry, same Department of Department of Trade Union Affairs. They're already giving another grant. So we already received 3rd grant now. And apart from that, I also part of the team in the European grant. There are some scientists also got the grant from under Dr. Jayaraj. So he got a grant from European Union. So I think no problem to get a grant. He got a 1.2 million euro, equivalent to 5.6 million ringgit Malaysia. I'm not sure about how much in India rupees. And about 40 or 30 researchers are working on different kind of topic, from the science based, from mathematics, and also from social science, and also from the manager. Like myself, I'm looking at the HR, right? So they are giving one research to do on the Royal Bloom. Royal Bloom is a forest reserve, forest, one of the state in Malaysia. They call Perak. So on there, they got a forest reserve. So they got to study about fauna and all the animals, vegetation, plants, together with the ecotourism. They got nice lake, water treatment, so many research, So, and I was given to develop a HR for the resort that they're going to develop in that particular. So grant already available until 2016 or 17. My research will start. So why they give grant? Because your writing, your paper that you publish in the journal, and also they can see you how frequently you are disseminating the knowledge, and your student is very important. So that's why tomorrow I'm going to give talk to my student in University Sabah. They're invited as a guest lecturer here. So I'm going to share the research that we already completing. I'm going to share some finding. Then currently we are actually handing over our research to ILO, and also to ministry, and also other parties. So slowly we're working on the papers. By next year, maybe we are come up with a book. So as a research book, so that many people from industry really, they want to see books. They don't see journals for industry people. So we are going to hand over to industry. Even tomorrow also we hand over to the one of the biggest bank in Malaysia, Maybank, National Bank. They are champion in the green job. So our research will be hand over by our partners . So that's why I'm here in Sabah to witness about this handover session. So grant is very important. To get grant not easy. People want to give money to you to research, not easy. So throughout my career, I received a lot of grant, and most of the grant I see actually international grant. So the grant transfer into application. So that is the most important in here. So this 3 days workshop that we are going to attend virtually, I believe you will benefit. And once again, I really thanks to what we call the Lavender Literature Club of India, and also Cap Comorin Trust, and of course Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association. So these 3 NGOs, professional bodies, are actually organizing this 3 days international virtual workshop. And I strongly believe that there will be more speakers will be coming and listening to us. And we need to get a lot of comment from you, so that the comment will take it into the account to improvement of our workshop. At the same time, you have to be also learning each other. Go back to your university and try to publish. So publication Well, I'm already 28 years in a university, what do you call, in the university, but it's become like my, not only my hobby, it's become part of my life. So writing cannot be separated. Even every day I write some short articles, and now I go more disseminate the knowledge because I'm already professor. So I'm training the young, even just now, I just came back from the workshop for my master student is doing on the research on the graduate employability and also looking at the entrepreneurship and HR. Right? So I'm bringing the young scholars together with me. Those potentials, so they are very young, and one of them is engineer. Okay, electrical and electronic engineer, and the other one is industrial. So even though he's engineer, but he is very concerned about social science research. He himself tell me that he really interested to learn about social science, even though you're dealing with engineering. So that's how powerful is research. So my student, the one is actually a senior manager in cooperative. You all know cooperative, Cooperative. So we are trying to do research how to reduce the graduate employability problems. Many of them unemployed. So we're bringing them to the cooperative. We got about 14,000 cooperative in Malaysia. So Mr. Anthony is doing research on the dual function of the graduate. One is their employee, the other one is they are also holding the share in the cooperative. So you can see you come up with new ideas, So that's why we're very glad. So with that, I like officially open this 3-day international virtual workshop. And I like once a time, I like to thanks to Dr. Frank, Dr. Regine, and these people work behind the skin. They are not show themselves, but they're very humble person. And I think Gino, very humble person, always came and become introduce the speakers, and all of them working on the voluntary base, no money, no income, nothing. We don't receive anything, but we are only giving. There's a lot of parable say that giving is better than receiving, and we are giving our knowledge to all of you. And at the same thing, also I hope you also participate and give the knowledge freely to others. When we help others, God also help us. So that is a formula that we must understand. Whenever you help people, help someone, God also help our family members, our children. It happened to me also. Whenever I helping my students, a lot of my students, my uni student, actually God bless my children also. So and that's how this is a relationship now in the world, and also we're doing good to the mankind. So thank you very much. Enjoy, and we'll see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Barasar, for the informative talk. Dear participants, we are moving to the second session, and our speaker is Dr. Anindya Banerjee, completed her PhD in the year 2012 from Calcutta University with specialization in the fields of Indian writing in English, eco-criticism, and environmental sustainability, post-colonial literature studies, folk literature, and folk narratives. She has been the recipient of both international and national awards for pursuing her research for excellence. Her keen interest in attaining academic excellence keeps her spirit motivated to achieve and explore more. We are very glad to have you, ma'am. The session is yours. Banerjee, ma'am, Dr. India Banerjee, ma'am, you can start.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
audible.
Thank you so much. Very good afternoon, very good evening to all my learned friends and to the learned professors. Before I begin my session, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Balakrishnan for this enlightening keynote. I myself was listening to the keynote address, and it was so much enlightening to hear from him about the various ways and the nuances researching, writing, editing, and publishing is all about. The entire world of academics actually revolves around these four parameters. One is definitely, as Professor Balakrishnan said, starts with researching, followed by writing, followed by editing, and finally publishing. So before I go into my session, I thank Lavender Literary Club in collaboration with Malaysian Industrial Relation and Human Resource Association Malaysia to give me an opportunity to share my views regarding my presentation, mainly highlighting on how to write a scientific research paper. Before I begin my presentation, I would just apologize to all my viewers for my technical glitch. My camera is not working, but hopefully I would try to make it out with my oral presentation. Thank you for bearing with me. So without spending much of my time, I directly come to my presentation dealing, let me share my screen. Yeah. So how to write a scientific research paper. Now, before I go into the nuances or the deliberations of how to draft a research paper, I would start with a very basic framework and an outline defining that what is a scientific research paper. As Dr. Balakrishnan has already set the ball game rolling, any experiment in terms of scientific sanctity is not complete until the results have been published and understood. Whatever we try to aspire or whatever we try to gain through our research experiments needs to be authenticated through the art of publication and general appreciation of the application results by the greater world. And in this context, a scientific paper is a written and published report describing original research results. Whatever we are aspiring to get through our experimental science, we try to deduce the validity of those experimental results through our assertion through the publication of our research paper. Next, the very basic concept highlights what is scientific writing. The purpose of scientific writing is to communicate new scientific findings. The world is looking always for a change, and in order to avail or to optimize the changing viewpoint of the world, we need to develop scientific research. And the purpose of this research writing is to communicate to the larger world about the new scientific findings. So, what should be the parameter of a scientific research? It has to be clear, It has to be simple, well ordered communication to transmit new scientific findings. In this context, my dear friends, I would like to highlight the 7 C's of communication. The 7 C's of communication, because technical communication is actually dealing with these 7 C's or the 7 nuances. What are the 7 C's? It has to be clear, it has to be concise, it has to be candid, it has to be courteous, it has to be complete, it has to be chronological, and it has to be coherent. When you are all uh, tying up the concepts in a single line of thread, you try to communicate to the world a data or a concept which is clear, simple, well ordered, transmitting new scientific findings. Next, scientific writings must use proper English, which gives the sense in the fewest short words. As I said, it has to be concise, candid, chronological, as well as complete. With the finishing of the experimental data, the analysis has to be complete. Coming to the next slide, it speaks about the origin of scientific writing. Now, if we move to the prehistoric times, it is said that knowledge is lost without written records. Now you see, in our present day, we have the e-archival or the digitized archival from where data is retrieved. But come to the age of the Neolithic times, come to the prehistoric times, when men used to have cave paintings and inscriptions as their first attempt to leave records. Then comes the formation or the discovery of paper as a medium of communication in 2000 BC with the invention of papyrus in form of paper. Again, when we move ahead of some time in 190 BC, parchment, we had the animal hide skins being used to retrieve data or for data storing. Then finally, in 105 AD, the paper invention was done by the Chinese. Now, knowledge could not be widely circulated with no effective duplication. So long up to 105 AD, it was only invention and transcription. But that could not disseminate the knowledge. For the dissemination of the knowledge, what was needed was the art of duplication. And so in 1100 AD, the Chinese invented the movable typing. In 1455, Gutenberg printed his 42-line Bible from the movable type on a printing press. So gradually you see how data is now being invented, reinvented, circulated, and recirculated. Finally, by the year 1500, thousands of copies of 100 books were printed and were sent in duplication. And in 1665, the first scientific journals came into publication. Next comes the Imrad story. This is the very basic framework on which the entire publication theory revolves. What does the Imrad story imprint? It stands for Introduction I, M for methodology, R for results, A and D for discussion. So you see, if we go to the gradual evolution of the scientific papers, early journals published descriptive papers. They were only the form of descriptive papers. Gradually, by the second half of the 19th century, reproducibility of experiments became a fundamental principle of the philosophy of science. So, whatever you are assimilating needs to be reproduced to the world for authentication. The method section became all important since Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory of disease. So, what happens, you see, initially it was just description. Description led to the reproducibility of experiments, and finally, reproducibility of experiments highlighted the concept of methodology. So the IMRAD organization of a scientific paper started to develop, highlighting the need of introduction, method, results, and discussion. Finally, IMRAD format slowly progressed in the latter half of the 19th century. So, what is this IMRAD format? IMRAD format actually starts with I. Now, what is this I highlighting? I is highlighting, just a minute. Yeah. I is highlighting the concept of introduction. What question should be studied? What is the scope of my research publication? M stands for the methods that are used to reach to the experimentation. R stands for results and the findings. D stands for discussion, and what discussion leads to the interpretation. Next comes the organization of a scientific paper. This is the very most important part of a scientific publication, as Dr. Balakrishnan was also highlighting. No matter what we do in form of research, research gets authenticated only when it is published in form of a paper. And a paper publication definitely is guided by certain norms and rules, of which organization of the scientific paper is the most important. Just I've given you the format in a very basic form. If a number of methods were used to achieve directly results, that is, method plus result is the experimental section. That is the discussion section. The results are so complex that they need to be immediately discussed. That leads to result plus discussion, giving the discussion section. So experimental section deals with the methodology and the result. Result and discussion section deals with research and its conclusive discussion. Now coming to what is a scientific paper. Now a scientific paper is written and published report dealing with original research results. So, no matter what you describe, what you achieve, the essence of a scientific paper is when you are able to publish it in a format. Even Dr. Balakrishnan was highlighting the same concept. So, a scientific paper is a written and published report describing original research results. It must be the first publication. Plagiarism is an offense, and a publication without acknowledgement of the co author's work from which it has been referred is a punishable offense. So it must be in the form of first publication of original research results, in a form whereby peers of the author can repeat the experiment and test the conclusion, and in a journal or the other source document readily available with the scientific community. This actually is the second highlighting portion. You have established your scientific journal based on your research methodology, based on your research experiments. Now the contemporary scientific scenario of the world is able to use your data for their own ennobling activities. Next, definition of a scientific paper. How is a scientific paper different from a humanities paper or a paper highlighting the concepts of social science? So, what is a scientific paper? An accepted original scientific publication containing scientific information to enable peers to assess observations. Once you have published your scientific papers, it is the duty of your peers to assess the observation and continue it in the larger world, to repeat experiments, to evaluate intellectual processes. It must have an impact value. A research without an impact value is considered null and void. And then it should be available to scientific community without any further restriction. And at the end, it should be open to criticism, regular screening, and it should be having the secondary publication services like the PubMed, the Web of Science. It should be authenticated and available at their disposal scheme. Acha. Some important language points. When we are writing a scientific paper or when we are publishing a paper, language is the crux to validate to the world what you are trying to impose to the world, or what you're trying to disseminate to the world, your knowledge scheme. So language plays a very important role, and in this line of thought, language is not the ornamental reflective language used in literature. Rather, it should be a language which should be very simple, clear, and should be kept in mind that the paragraph is the essential unit of thought, because it is not always in form of bullets that you are able to frame out your research paper. Research paper definitely should come in form of a paragraph or in form of a structure which follows their method of authentication to be published in the journal. Before we start writing a research paper, what are the key points that we need to keep in mind? Though it sounds that it is very simple, but when we start writing, after writing few lines, we literally realize that the entire writing is getting up jumbled. We are unable to make conclusions. So before we start to write the paper, we should be very clear about our readings. We should make tables. We should draw graphs. We should keep files to record the summaries of results and any observation, however insignificant it is. You see, most of us have the habit of throwing out the data once we find it of no use. But my learned friends, no matter how insignificant the data is, it plays a real life data authentication when we start to write a research paper. Finally, it should have the date and the files. We should revise our readings, how many times we repeat an experiment while we still have the material. And the most important point is that write the ideas whenever it comes. Very important part of the slide, essential parts of a scientific paper. First is the title, which describes concisely the core contents of the paper. Abstract summarizes the major elements of the paper. Introduction provides context and rationale for the study. Materials describe the experimental design so it is reproducible. Methodologies describe the experimental procedures. Results summarize the findings without interpretation. Discussions interpret the findings of the study. Summary summarizes the findings. Acknowledgement gives credit to all the people who have helped in framing your research, and references speaks about your reference material as well as your bibliography and the book portion which you have used to frame out your research paper. Next comes the title. The title is the most important part in a framing research paper. A good title is defined as the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. The title should be very concise and it should not be too much of lengthy in length. The title is very important, my dear friends. Be very careful when you choose the title of your research paper. It is very important and it must be chosen with great care as it will be read by thousands, whereas few will read the entire paper. Now, suppose when in the early morning we read a newspaper headline or the heading, you see, we just glance down through the newspaper reading. Only the titles that attract the visionary, oculary content of the eye, we just get glued to it. Then only we go to the inner storyline. So the title plays the glittering line of thought to frame your research paper. Another important point is indexing and abstracting of the paper depends on the accuracy of the title. An improperly titled paper will get lost and will never be read in time. Now, just a few guidelines about the title. Title should neither be too short nor too long as it would be meaningless. It should be very precise and it should not use waste words. Waste words like investigating on the case, studies on. So these are the crunch words we say, the crutch words or the crunch words which fill up the gap. No, it should be very much to the point and it should be authenticated to what the research is heading for. Syntax, this is very important. The syntax or the lexical format of the word should be clearly notified in a research. And the title should contain the keywords which should reflect the contents of the paper. It should be meaningful and not general. It should be concise, specific, and informative. It should capture the fundamental nature of experiments and findings. Next, example. You see, it can be action of antibiotics on bacteria. You see, action, just this is an example of a title. Action of antibiotics on bacteria. You see, action should be defined. Antibiotics should be listed. Bacteria should be listed. Mechanism, just another one, mechanism of suppression of non-transmissible pneumonia in mice induced by Newcastle disease virus. These are just some of the general scientific research terms I have found out just to give you an idea to see how the syntactical words get glued to the word which the vision looks for. You see, for example, if I just take the first one, action of antibiotics on bacteria. The moment I take this statement, I automatically would like to know what are the various types of antibiotics and what are its effects on the bacteria. And a very simple one I have chosen is that effect of sunlight on leaf morphology. Next, coming to how to prepare the title. The title should contain the most important keywords, and think of the title that contain these words, and the title could state the conclusion of the paper. If I go to the previous slide, you see effect of sunlight on leaf morphology. You see, when I'm coming to the next slide, it highlights, make the list of the important keywords. Okay, and the title should contain these words on which you are going to experiment. So, what are we going to experiment on? The leaf morphology. Our title should never contain abbreviation, chemical formulas, proprietary names, or jargons. Rethink of the title before submitting the paper. You see, Professor Balakrishnan was also speaking in the same line that whatever you are thinking, try to write it in form of a paper, which will only help you to authenticate and reconstruct your research statement. And when you are writing a research statement, it starts first with the drafting of the title. And finally, be very careful about the use of the grammatical errors. Next comes the abstract. The abstract can be defined as a summary of the information in a document, and it is the fundamental importance that the abstract should be written clearly and simply, as it is the first and sometimes the only part of the manuscript read. My dear friends, be very careful about it, because most of the research papers are formed within what I can say with the studying of the abstract only. Because you see, when we get to read the abstract of a research paper, we get to know the inner contents of the research in an elaborated form. So it should provide a brief summary of each of the main sections of the paper, and it should state the SOP, what is the statement of purpose as you're drafting the research paper. It should also, if it is an experimental paper, it should describe the methods. If it is a theoretical paper, it should summarize the results and finally draw the principal conclusions. It is easier to write the abstract, definitely. It is said that it is easier to write the abstract after you have completed your paper. Clear? Okay. Next is criteria of the abstract. What is the criteria of the abstract? The criteria of the abstract, it should not exceed 250 words. My dear friends, I have tried to make it as user manual to help you in writing your research paper. If you use this methodology, you can draft your research paper very easily. Okay, it should not exceed 250 words. It should be written in a single paragraph. It should be written in the past tense. Be very careful of this. It should be written in past tense as it would refer to the works that has already been done. It should have not the long words, and if long words are used, it should be followed by its abbreviation. It should not cite any references. It should never give in any information or conclusion that is not stated in the paper and must be accurate with respect to figures quoted in the main text. Next comes the introduction. The introduction should answer the following questions. What am I studying? What is the important question? What did I know about this topic before I do? It's exactly, my learned friends, when you're framing your introduction, go by this general theoretical question format, and it will help you in realizing what you are actually attempting for. What model was I testing, and what approach did I take to come to this conclusive ending? Suggested rules for a good introduction. It should present the nature and the scope of the problem investigated, review pertinent literature, very important. Literature review should be an integral part for your research methodology. State the method of investigation, state the principal results of the investigation, state the principal conclusions suggested by the results. Next comes the general rules. Use the present tense when referring to the work that has already been published, but past tense when referring to your own study. Be very careful when you're using your language. That's why the very first thing that I said, that when you're framing your research paper, you should be very clear about the concept on which you are dwelling. Use active voice as much as possible. Avoid lengthy or unfocused reviews of previous research. Cite peer-reviewed scientific literature to authenticate your research findings, and define technical terms, abbreviations, and jargons. How to write the materials and the method sections. Provide full details so that the experiments are reproducible. Organize the methods under subheadings, and describe the experiment design in detail. Do not always mix results in the section. When you are writing the materials in the method section, you are actually highlighting the research scope. So never mix up results in this research scope, and use past tense for your drafting. Next, coming to the choice of materials. People, while framing the research paper, should be very careful in choosing their research material. They must identify accurately the experimental data, be it in form of theory, be it in form of experiments, or in form of discussion. And for chemicals, technical specification and the source method of preparation should be beautifully exemplified and explained. And what happens is that if the human subjects are used, the criteria for selection should be described with consent. Whenever we are discussing any human research topic, it should have the consent from the concerned authority of the concerned people. Next comes the methodology. This I have explained. When you are drafting the methodology of the research, it should actually highlight the questions of how and how much. How has this process been achieved and how much it has been reflected? So there should be a minimum correlation between how and how much. Next comes how to write the results. So coming towards the end of my presentation, we come to the portion of drafting the results. Result section is always written in the past tense. It is the core or the heart of the paper. It needs to be clearly and simply stated since it constitutes the new knowledge contributed to the world. My dear friends, be very careful to draft your results. The purpose of this section is to summarize and illustrate the findings in an orderly and logical sequence without interpretation. The text should guide the reader through the findings and stressing of the major points. And last but not the least, do not describe the methods that have already been described and or been inadvertently omitted. So your results should actually highlight the optimum clarification of your research analysis. Methods of presenting the data. It can be directly in form of text. It can be in form of a table. It can be in form of a figure, but all must be accompanied by a textual presentation of key findings. Okay. Next comes how to write the discussion. Discussion is the most important and it is the most complicated part for drafting a research paper. Discussion actually deals with the research methodology and its primary purpose is to show the relationships among observed facts. How are you deducing the relationship between the observed fact? It should end with a short summary or conclusion regarding the significance of the work. Components of a discussion. Try to present the principles, relationships, and generalization shown by the result. Point out any exceptions or any lack of correlation and define unsettled points. Show how your results and interpretations agree or contrast with previously published work. Discuss the theoretical implications of your work and many possible practical application. State your conclusions as clearly as possible. And last but not the least, summarize your evidence for each conclusion. Another point which is very much pertinent to research publication is the acknowledgement section. Now, acknowledgement is, excuse me, acknowledgement is actually that section which acknowledges the work of the other people who has helped you in drafting the research paper and in publication of the research paper. You should acknowledge any significant technical help that you have received from an individual. It can be also in form of equipment, cultures, or any material. It can be in form of financial assistance, and it should actually acknowledge the persons who helped you in drafting the research paper. Next comes references. What is referencing? Referencing is a standardized way of acknowledging the sources of information and ideas that you have used in all documents. If you have not acknowledged the references from the relevant sources, the paper is considered to be a plagiarized paper. So reference format is a Harvard format, alphabet number system, and the citation order system. Harvard format deals with the name and the year system, and it is the most important one or the most commonly used one. Alphabet number is a modification of the year and the name system, and then comes the general citation order system. In text citation, exactly how you do it in within your paper. In text citation, in name and the year system, I think all of you know this, but still for your reputation, I'm just saying citation in the text is followed by the author's last name and the year of publication between parentheses. If there are two authors, then both last names are written. If more than two, then only first author's name is written followed by the abbreviation ETAL. I think these are the in-text citation, which actually in name and the year system, in alphabet and the number system, and in citation order system, this is the references are numbered in the order they are mentioned in the text. Then comes the reference list. Any paper not cited in the text needs to come under the reference list. Reference list allows readers to investigate the subject in a greater depth. A reference list contains only the books, articles, and web pages that are cited in the text of the document. A bibliography includes all sources consulted for background or further reading. Next comes towards the end, I think this I have all explained. Acha, books. This is the way you do a book citation. You see, journal or magazine. You have the name of the author followed by the chapter and the page numbers, year and the page number, volume, year and the page number. If it is a journal or a magazine article, if it is a newspaper article, you just have the name of the publication and the year, and if it is an encyclopedia article. And you see book chapter or article, these are the various ways. You see if it is of the website, you see you have the name and then the website authentication entry. If it is a book article or the chapter, it speaks about the author, name, publication, year of publication, and the page numbers. These are just the in-text citations, which is very much needed. And finally, how to write a thesis. This is just a brief ending to what you have done. So unlike scientific paper, the thesis may describe more than one topic and it may be present more than one approach to some topic. The thesis may be present all or most of the data obtained in the student's thesis related research. That's it is more involved and longer than a scientific paper. So once suppose you are publishing your research paper and you want to draft it in form of a thesis, because for your thesis publication you need to have a general published papers. So when you are drafting those papers to make it a part of your thesis, a thesis is supposed to have all your publications in a scientific format, and it is written in a logical way so that the reader will find it interesting and will not feel bored. Ethics, rights, and permission, as I was always saying, that be very careful about plagiarism. Authenticate your work. If you're using references, always acknowledge the person from where the learned material has been referred, otherwise, it falls under a criminal offense. And last to end with, I would speak about the references because most of the time we try to take in material direct from the text without using the reference material. So be very careful, my dear friends, when you're using in-text references because if it is not acknowledged, it falls under the purview of plagiarism. So, with this, I end my presentation. Hope it has added some value to your insight to how to publish a research publication. I have done it in a very simple but in a very detailed manner so that you can follow it for the basics of your writings because there may be people who are doing the research for the first time and they are trying to publish the paper to authenticate your publication, to authenticate the structure of your publication. Kindly follow these golden rules. The IMRAD rule is a general accepted rule. And with these few words, I thank you all for your patient hearing. Hope it has added a nuance to your angle of paper publication and will add value to your future publication scope. Thank you so much. I'm open to question. If anyone has any question. Yes.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
evening yes, my name is Ibrahim Haruna. Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening. A
Yes,
very good evening.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm speaking from Europe. Yes, thank you
Very
for your meticulous presentation. I have also learned a lot from you. You've kept a very concise presentation, as you said, your 7 C's of communication in research. Good.
exactly.
Yes. The question is the essential parts of a scientific paper. You highlighted on title, abstract, introduction, material, methods, research, discussion, summary, acknowledgement, and reference.
Exactly.
Good. With the essential parts of your scientific paper, I think there's a noise background that is
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yes, sir. Fine. Continue. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So the essential part that I made mention of earlier, title, abstract, introduction, material, methods, research, results, discussion, summary, acknowledgement, and reference.
Okay.
From your presentation, I understood that the abstract is the eye of your research. If you
Exactly.
get it wrong, everything is
Exactly,
messed
sir.
up. Good.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. If the abstract is the eye of your research, before you, from your presentation, you said before you start writing, you should have everything ready. Is discussion
Exactly.
the most important? Results and discussion. Is the result and discussion the most important part of your research writing?
Exactly. Actually, with due regard, sir, may I know whether it is from the scientific background you're speaking or you're from the general social science? Now, what happens, you see, for myself, I come from the literature background, okay? So what happens is that when we frame our research paper, we first of all try to frame our abstract, because you see that is the key whole area where our exposition of the research statement lies. For example, you see, if I work, because my area works on eco criticism and environmental sustainability, so whenever I submit a paper, because it is a theoretical genre to which I work, I always try to, or rather, the people from the humanities background, we first of all frame out the abstract. But if it is for the scientific research paper, you see, you start writing an abstract, but towards the end, when it is an experimental basis subject, your results may vary to what with which you had aimed to begin with. Because ultimately, it is the validation of your result components which is going to give the structure to your validity of the publication. So, considering the papers which are written from the scientific background or scientific research paper, we always ask the people, first of all, to be very sure and authentic to an extent to which the research is being gathered forth. Then only when you are more or less sure of your footing, then only we ask you to frame the abstract, because your abstract is going to be the keyhole to the area of the experimental results which you have obtained towards the end. So, this is only the difference which we make between a theoretical exposure and an experimental exposure. For literature, what we do is that, you see, we frame it according to our own thought. For example, if we go with the works of J.K. Rowling, because I come from the literature background, we talk about J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Now, what I feel about Harry Potter's exposition to child literature, it is my own view of framing it. So, first of all, I say that it has replaced Indian comical characters, and it has taken the place of child literature in India. So, in this angle, I start developing my research writing. But when we go for the scientific research, we cannot actually predict what the result is going to be unless we come to the conclusive deduction towards the end. So, that's why I had said that for the abstract, in case of a scientific paper, is half framed unless your part of deduction has been reached. Could I make it clear? Yes. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for very informative talk.
Okay.
And dear participants, we are moving to next session, and our speaker is Dr. S. Veeramani. He's a scholar, research advisor, and a prolific writer. He did his BA, MA, and MPhil in English language and literature in St. Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli. He obtained a PhD degree in postmodernism from Bharathidasan University, Tiruchirappalli. His doctoral thesis on postmodernism was well received and appreciated. He has published more than 20 research articles in international indexed with good impact factor journals. He is a member in international professional and academic bodies. He is also one of the editorial board members and reviewers in the International Journals of English Literature and Humanities. He is a columnist in Tamil monthly magazine Smaitangi. Besides, he received a Best Research Paper Publisher Award from St. Joseph College Management in 2015. He is a research person to various colleges to train students in the fields of English communication and soft skills. He is a voracious reader. He gained 10 years of teaching experience in his alma mater. At present, he is an assistant professor of English in Arinyar Anna Government Arts College, Namakkal. We are very glad to have you, sir. I'm handing over this session to you. This session is yours.
Thank you, sir. Is my screen visible to you, sir?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. Am I audible to you? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my
You're
dear
audible.
friends and participants, good evening to one and all gathered virtually here on uh, this virtual platform. First of all, I have to thank Mr. Dr. Frank Joyce and Satya for having given this wonderful and a beautiful opportunity to share a few things about the research, design, and methods in social sciences. So here, in the first speak, I mean, in the previous session, you would have learned many more things about the research paper and how to write the research paper, and what are the other, what should I say, pros and cons about the writing the research papers and so on, and how to publish it and everything. You would have understood, and you would have got some knowledge about the research and other things. My presentation is totally focused on the research design and methods exclusively in social sciences. It is not a seminar sticking on to a particular subject like English language and literature, but I'm talking about the research design and how we are going to make the design in research as well as the methods in social sciences. So this is my presentation style. Yes, here, the research design and methods in social sciences. What exactly is research? It's a very important point that everybody should understand, because some people do the research for their own interest. Some can take the research for the society's sake. Some can take the research for the, what should I say? They should be viewed as something different person in society. So for these reasons, they would have taken the research as well as they are doing research. But as far as I'm concerned, and many more researchers are concerned, every research must do something for the society. Every researcher must contribute their knowledge, intelligentsia, research, the what do I say, the physical, the labor and mental labor to the upliftment and to the development of a society. At the same time, at some of the points, the research must cater some points and some designs for the students community, the student researcher community. So this is the ultimate aim of research design, first of all. So we have so many methods. So a questionnaire method and interview method, and you take your research by having a field visit in your research area of a topic, and there are so many methods. So these two research design and methods are combined together to give a proper research. The proper research can help the students, community, society, or even a particular target of a audience, particular target of a people. Okay, these things we must understand first of all. There are two kinds of research types. Number one is correlation research. Number two is experimental research. Now, what is correlation research? This correlation research and its goal is to determine whether two variables are termed properly or not. So here, what is variable? weight and other quantity and other values. These are all called values. The values can vary from one field to another field. The values can differ from one discipline to another discipline. So this is what we call that variable, first of all. A researcher may be interested in determining whether age is related to weight. The statement I would like to give you, you just read and understand the statement, you will understand what is variable and what is value. A researcher may be interested in determining whether a person can age. Age is related to weight. People think like that. In our life, what's your age? Your age is 20. So you must be at least 157 centimeter, 158, okay, or 160, like that. We have that kind of already preconceived idea about the value and the variable. Okay, so this is the thing. That's why I have given you that the age is indeed related to weight, because as age increases, when the age increases, the weight is also increases. It is the common understanding. Okay, this common understanding, age and weight is measurable through the value. This is what we call variable. Understand? And the correlation, or it can be called a relationship. What is a relationship? The relationship should be between two things. It does not mean necessarily that one thing caused the another. Okay, so one thing caused another in the sense, age is the cause for the weight. Okay, weight is the cost for the age. It is not like that. It is not necessarily to be fit in the relationship which we talk about, that age increases as well as the weight also. We think in that way. But it cannot be. Okay, it may not be sometimes. It is, what should I say, dependable on the situation and so on. And the second point, very important point is, the second type is the experimental research. This is what we call that a cause and effective conclusion. Okay, and then what we have is here to test some hypothesis regarding what is a hypothesis. Still, people, they have some arguments that how many hypotheses should be used in my PhD thesis or in my research, or even if you want to take up a study, and when your study is converted into a paper, research article, research paper, you must ask, and you might have that kind of thinking, that how many hypotheses should I write on my research paper, and what are the hypotheses should I write? All these questions you should ask among yourselves. But I tell you today, through my webinar, through my presentation, you can have at least 3 or 4 hypotheses that are enough. When you take up many more hypotheses, you need to, what should I say, justify all the 5 or more than 5 hypotheses in your thesis. Sometimes your hypothesis may not be valid, may not be relevant to your research study. So in that case, you will find you will be entrapped. That's why I tell you that you need to have only 3 or 4 more hypotheses, 4 hypotheses, not more than 5 or not more than 4. Okay, as long as you reduce your hypothesis, you can do your research well and good. But no research paper, no research article, no research Bible, no research book talk about These many hypotheses should be written on the research, either on the PhD level or on the research paper writing level. No book is giving that kind of a definition. Okay, that's why on the outset itself, I would like to tell you that hypothesis, you must have your hypothesis according to your study, according to the situation, according to the design and the methods. That's why I'm talking about the design and method through which you are going to do your research work. Okay, and then the social researchers, we can have that the social researchers, they do the research for the social concern. Social concern, which means everything, whatever they take up their research study or field work or any lab work through the apparatus and anything it may be, it should be useful for the society's values. So they are coming under the society, social researchers. And you know that it is a very common understanding, that is quantitative and qualitative research. And then we have that the mixed methods. Mixed methods, nowadays many research writers and researchers at the same time, some, what would I say, medical researchers, they go in for the mixed method research activities. Instead of doing one research activity, they stick on to the mixed methods. Okay, and then we have that art-based research. Art-based research is a kind of what should I say, painting or any other art-related works. And then the community-based participatory research. So here, what we talk about, the community-based participatory, which means as a researcher should get involved in the society with the people. They need to get the ideology and values and the variables and everything from the people by having the interaction with the society. With the society, in the sense, it is mixed with the people. Okay, and then we have that the second thing is research study. What is research study and research plan? So we need to have the research plan right now. Unless you have the proper research plan, you find your research sometimes, I'm not telling all the times, but at sometimes, maybe in futile, maybe in a wrong way, maybe in some type of a questionable. That's why I would like to tell you that every researcher must have the research plan. The research plan, first of all, we have that is a title of the study. I could find my own PhD scholars. They came and they asked me, sir, I would like to do my research. Please give me a title or suggest me a title. Is this a way? Is this the way to, what should I say, speak with their guide, or speak with the research supervisor? But if the candidate, if the researchers speak like that, sir, could you please give us a title, or could you please suggest any title for my PhD thesis or my research? That means that particular person is unfit to do the research. Because research, you must have your own title. You must have your own broad area of study. You must have, as a student, as a researcher, everybody, the researcher or a student of doing research must have some kind of knowledge about how to go about research. But still people believe that the guide or research supervisor is going to give the research title and so on. But this is not the right way. So the title of the study you must have on your own, first of all. At least the broad area of study you must have. Okay, and then the problem statements. Problem statements, you know that what kind of a problem you have identified through your conversation with the people, a conversation with the other researchers. So you can have the problem statement. That the problem statement can be proved or it cannot be. What should I say? You can add more and more, or you can develop some more points about the problem statement to give some knowledge to the society and so on. And then purpose statement. Your thesis must have some kind of a purpose in your research. Okay, either it is a paper or article or a thesis or whatever it may be the genre. But I would like to tell you in general, that is research. Your research must have the purpose statement. Unless you have the purpose in your statement, in your research, how you are going to take up the research? It's very difficult for the people to take up the research without having the purpose of the statement and so on. That's why I would like to tell you, my dear friends, to have the purpose of the statements in your research. Either it can be used for the people of various ages, or children, or adulthood, or else women, or men, or aged persons, something like that. Okay, and then research questions, hypothesis, or objectives. You must have that questions, research questions, sometimes the hypothesis. Okay, at the same time, the objectives of your research. And then you have the literature reviews. So if you go in for many more reading of the literature reviews, you will understand the research gap. In order to fulfill the research gap, you need to do much more literature reviews. Literature review is very simple. We can say that it is a kind of a pilot study that you have taken up before the you start up your research and so on. This is what we call that. This is a literature review. Okay, and then we have that theory base of the study. Theory base of study, you know that there are various kinds of theory. You take up a particular theory, and that theory can be applied in your research, and then you can use for your study through the what should I say, experimentation and so on. And then the methods section. Method section. This is the way. This is the point. Every researcher must be very careful about doing the research, because selecting the method. You can have mixed method. At the same time, you can have a specific method. That specific method can give the specificity of your research. That's why we can be very careful in doing and selecting the method. It's a point. And then literature review. It is a kind of a process and product. Before doing the thing, it is a kind of process and a product. And then how you are going to do and how you are going to create your thesis is what we call that literature review. Yeah, literature review is the process of searching for, reading, summarizing, and synthesizing existing work on a topic, or the resulting written summary of the search. So it's very clear that we need to understand about a particular topic, that how you are going to take up your research by doing the searching for, reading so many books and so many articles, so many research articles on a particular topic, and what you are going to give some summary of that topic, and how you are going to make together. I mean, here I would like to tell you Hegel's point of view. You know that Hegel is a great philosopher. What he said is the dialectical materialism. There is a philosophy called dialectical materialism. That is thesis, synthesis, thesis, antithesis. Finally, we have a synthesis. The same concept is applied by Karl Marx in his socio-economic theory. That is, I mean, upper class, lower class. Finally, we have that classless society. So this is the point. The synthesizing, it is very important, even in Bloom's taxonomy. When you talk about the Bloom's taxonomy, You have that the knowledge level and the cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy is also based on that synthesizing. So synthesizing sometimes will provide and will make you lead, understand what the topic you are going to do and what the research you are going to complete and what is the research gap between the previous research and the present research, the existed and the existing. Okay, and the existing and the proposed research. There will be a gap. Actually, there will be a gap, I tell you that. So in order to fulfill the gap, you need to do so many literature review by having the synthesizing activity. And then it results in a comprehensive overview of the previous research. This is what I told you earlier, that is literature review. Okay, and then it will give you a clear picture about your topic, clear understanding about your topic. It's a kind of another way, it is a kind of direct way to understand how your topic is valid. Okay, how your topic is going to be used by people in society, how your topic and how your research is going to be useful. Okay, and useful for all the stages you will understand on your topic when you do a literature review at the comprehensive level. Okay, and then your research purpose statement. How should a research purpose statement be? It is nothing but specify the purpose or objective of the research. You need to specify why you are going to take up the research. What is the purpose of doing this particular research? Simply, you cannot say that, sir, I am more interested in. Yeah, you can be interested in that. Even if you are interested in, through your study, through your research, how you are going to contribute to society. Without useful of you even if for example I tell you, you can take up so many concepts from so many books, and then you can finally produce an idea. Okay, a new idea. That idea, if it is not useful by the society, then why do you take up the research for 5 years or 6 years? Even some researchers can extend up to even 7 years and 8 years. And why and how you are going to do and fulfill the some problems? Fulfill the what should I say, remediation, to give the remediation for some problems. How you are going to do? That's why you need to give a specific purpose or specific objective of your research. That is the point, that your research purpose should be the following points. Okay, and then the information about the research topic or problem. So you must have a great information, in-depth information about the research topic or problem. The problem, you know that already you have a problem. Okay, to solve this problem, I'm going to take up the research. Okay, this is the point. And then the participants are data, the setting and the methodology. So how you are going to take the participants, from which area you are going to take the participants, and who are your target participants, and what are the specific data you wanted to collect, and what are the specific kind what would I say, the proper strategy. Okay, proper strategy for your methodology, and all these things you must have before you take up your research program. And then methods of data collection. Okay, there are so many methods. Even today, if you send a Google Forms, no, if you send a Google Forms through the social media, especially what would I say, Facebook and WhatsApp, you have so many what should I say, you can collect a great number of data. You need not to worry about that. But in that case, you must be very careful whether the data is fulfilled by the the proper person or the exact person, or whether they understand the questionnaire or not. But it is very difficult because we think that it is a data provided by that particular person, because already in the previous, in the first five columns or six columns, we ask them to write their names, their occupation, their what should I say, biodata, a small biodata. So we think that this is the particular person who has submitted this Google form by clicking or by giving the data and so on. But it's very difficult sometimes. Okay, but if it is circulated in a proper manner, you can have a great data. Yeah, and I mean, a valid data, you will have it. So this is the point. And then kinds of hypothesis. You have that. It's a kinds of I mean, there are so many kinds, but 1, 2, 3 are very, very specific and major kinds of hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but a statement that is yet to be proven. Till you complete your research, till you finalize and type the last line of your thesis, the hypothesis is not yet been completed. The hypothesis of any kind, it is not yet been completed. Okay, so even the last line of your thesis might, what should I say, might be relevant to your hypothesis, sometimes might not be relevant to your hypothesis. Okay, it may have that kind of thing. That's why we need to be in a position of understanding what is the hypothesis and what are the kinds of hypothesis. The number one is null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is no significant difference between two groups with respect to the variable being tested. You will understand there is no significant difference. The difference is, well, I mean, we cannot say that this is the proper difference, this is the exact difference, this is the what do I say, the measurable difference that I have taken from my hypothesis. You cannot say. So this is what we call that it is a null hypothesis. And directional hypothesis, it is a specific difference between two groups with respect to the variable being tested. So here you find that the directional hypothesis, you have a specific difference. When you have a specific difference, your research is going in a right path, in a proper way, in a proper strategy, in a proper method, in a proper design. You are taking up your research. This is the way you can understand the specific difference between two groups with respect to the variable being tested. So this kind of a hypothesis is called the directional hypothesis. And then the third major hypothesis is non-directional hypothesis. It's a difference between two groups with respect to the variables being tested, but not what the difference will be. Okay, but it is tested. A difference between two groups will be there, but the variable is not being tested. The exact difference will not be there in the hypothesis. This is what we call that a non-directional hypothesis. When we talk about the non-directional hypothesis, sometimes you need to give much more efforts to complete your PhD or complete your research. Okay, when you do the null hypothesis also, you need to take much more efforts. But when you have the directional hypothesis, your thesis will be somewhat in a proper way you are doing it. Okay, this is the point. And then 5 major approaches to research. Quantitative research. Second one is qualitative. Third, mixed method research. Fourth, art-based. And then fifth one is community based participatory, quantitative and qualitative and mixed method. Quantitative, you know that it is a kind of deductive approach. Deductive approach is you are going to prove the statement. Okay, sometimes you need to disprove the statement which is already existing in a course of a subject or in research, or even in sometimes I tell you that even in science, even in medicine, you find the previous what should I say? What should I say? Some vaccines are not used right now. Some injections are not used right now. Okay, some medicinal values are not used right now, because people, when they take up the new course and new research, say for example, nowadays we have AI, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things, and then we have that robotics, we have that. Then we have the data science and so on. When people are having all these, what should I say, methods and exclusive study, still there is a great development even in science, in medicine, in social sciences, in literature, in economics, in engineering, in what should I say, what not, in all the fields. I'll tell you today. It's not that to specify one particular field, but in all the fields, I tell you today, it's very important point is the researcher must take the interdisciplinary research rather than the monodisciplinary research. We must have the interdisciplinary research. Say, for example, economics is a subject, sociology is another subject. So economy and sociology can be put together to create something new, to give a solution for the economic crisis in the society or in a country. In a country, okay. And this is what we call that a socio-economic condition. Okay, sometimes psychology can be applied in society. This can be specified as a social psychology. Okay, and these kinds of things, say for example, bioengineering, how engineering tools and how engineering people are used to develop these science of medicine. Okay, in a medical field, how they can be utilized, all these things are there. So that is why I tell you that even today, say for example, when we have that kind of artificial intelligence, we have what should I say, the what should I say, a person who is not able to walk properly, his leg is dissected, and artificial artificial limb is fixed on a human body. Okay, then he is able to walk, he is able to run like a normal human being and so on. This is what we call that bionics. But the bionics, biology, onyx, that means the mechatronics, mechanics, and how mechanics subject is used to the artificial intelligence and Internet of Things and data scientists and everything. So that's why I tell you, my dear friends, if you want to take up your research, you must take up your research through the interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, rather than sticking on to one particular concept or one particular area for study and so on. Because you need to have a much more knowledge about two different types of fields. This is what I tell you that. Okay, so we have so many things. Yeah, I would love what right now. I would like to even if I complete, if I take up the presentation, it will take much more time. So now I would like to ask the participants to raise the questions. For want of time, I would like to tell you that I would like to invite the participants to ask questions.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Ibrahim. Thank you for your presentation.
Good evening, Ibrahim. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
from?
I'm speaking from Europe, Finland.
From?
I'm from Ghana, but I'm in Finland now, in Europe now.
Okay, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, yeah. You just gave us kinds of hypotheses, specifically on null hypothesis, directional, and non-directional. With these three kinds of hypotheses, which particular
I can't
discipline?
get you. Could you please type the question? Could you please type the question? I'm not able to get you because on my laptop the speaker is not working properly. So could you please type the question? Or anybody can
Can
type
you
the
hear me now?
question. I can. I can.
Can you hear me now, please?
I'm not. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. You presented on kinds of hypothesis: null hypothesis, directional hypothesis,
Yeah.
non-directional hypothesis. Yeah, good. Kinds of hypothesis. Which particular or which group of discipline in research is applicable, and which is applicable per your experience?
Actually, what hypothesis can be used for the research? This is what your question.
No, my question is that with three kinds of hypotheses you gave us: the null hypothesis, directional hypothesis,
Yeah.
non-directional hypothesis.
Yeah, non-directional null
We have
hypothesis. Yeah.
yes, we have different kinds of disciplines in research. Which
Okay.
of these is applicable to a particular discipline, and which is not applicable, and why?
As I told you earlier, yeah, this is the applicable hypothesis is the directional hypothesis. The directional hypothesis, which means you know that the variables are being tested, and finally you have the proper result also it will give you. So when you talk about the null hypothesis, you find it very difficult to go about your research. Even if you talk about that non-directional hypothesis, sometimes I cannot restrict that you must do and you must apply this particular hypothesis on your research like that. I'm not telling this kind of restriction, but it would be better. It would be better. But if you take up the null hypothesis, still you can work hard and fast. At the same time, you need to put much more efforts. Then you can disprove or prove that your null hypothesis or non-directional hypothesis. But I cannot say that this is the applicable hypothesis in your area. In what's your major? May I know that, Mr. Ibrahim?
Yeah, in medicine.
Medicine.
Yes, please.
You belong to medicine.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you belong to medicine in the sense you can go, as I told you in the beginning itself, the medicine people and the medicine researchers, they can use that mixed method research. Okay, in the mixed method research, you can have that null hypothesis and directional hypothesis and non-directional hypothesis, and three can be used. But according to your research design and methodology, we can have the result, the proper result. So sometimes you know that one research may fail. Another research you need to take in medicine, that research may fail. Another research you need to take. So finally you have for the result is end. Okay, so this is what I tell you, that it is applicable to your area of study, and how you are going to take up it is according to the density of your subject. First of all, the density of your subject, the use of your subject. So it depends on your selection. But as far as I am concerned, okay, as far as I am concerned, the directional hypothesis can be somewhat better.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ibrahim. Any question from participant? Arslan raised his hand, I think so.
Hello, Professor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I hope you are doing well today. So I am Arslan from Pakistan, and my research area is machine learning and computer vision. And
Your
I am an
research area
aspiring
is, sir?
machine learning and computer vision.
Yeah, machine learning and computer. Yes, very good.
Yeah, and I want to ask, what are your suggestions and advices to the new researchers who are just stepping in the research field?
Again, you please. You want?
I want to ask you, what do you advise, suggest to the new researchers like me who are
Yeah, that's
just
why actually, as you are doing a very great area, I tell you that. Artificial learning and machine learning and computer science, data science, and everything. It's a very, very important today, and it is totally you are going to be useful for the society. I'll tell you. This is the what should I say? There is no doubt in it. So in this way, when you do your research, since you are dealing with the computer and machine learning and so on, your knowledge of computer and your knowledge of machine learning can be utilized in medicine. Okay, in the field of medicine, you say, for example, medicine, which does not mean that only treating and so on, but you can have that paramedicine also. Okay, like a physiotherapy and psychology and so on. So your research study can be utilized in medicine since you are dealing with machine learning and computer science. Okay, so as I told you earlier, it is a kind of interdisciplinary. Research should be interdisciplinary, not that monodisciplinary. Okay, so in that case, if you do the interdisciplinary research, when you come to a conclusion, it will be definitely useful for the society, for the people. That's why it's my suggestion, not that advice. It's my suggestion that you can take up your research with medicine.
okay? It is helpful, Professor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.